Welcome. Today I'm going to be going over my Hailey build. This is a all-in-one build you can use for both mobbing and bossing. I haven't brought it into Ice Maiden, and I don't think it's going to be that viable in Ice Maiden given Hailey is a chill Descendant, but who knows, maybe you can try it. So, starting off with her modules. I'm going to immediately say this is her build, first off, obviously, and secondly, cryogenic cluster shot is optional. I'll go into this in more detail later in the video, however, just note, as of right now, it is not necessary. I just have it on here because it's for the video, and this is for my build. Anyway, I'll leave this up on screen for a couple of seconds, so you can screenshot it, or copy it, or whatever you want to do with this. How this build works is very simple. You just rotate your 3 and your 1 ability. I'll get into that more, because that's basically what you do for everything on this character. You can use your 4 and your 2, it just depends on the weapons, but again, I'll get into that more later. So, how this build works is you're trying to max out your critical hit damage using your 3. This increases, as you can see, your firearm critical hit rate every second by every stack that you have. Using the build that we have up here on screen and the arcade tuning that I'll showcase later, you can get 100% skill critical hit rate, and even the ATAMS has a 100% critical hit rate flat anyway. So we'll get into that anyway in a moment. But yes, this is the build. Moving on, we have our mobbing weapons. Now for mobbing, I like to use Malevolent. However, you can use pretty much anything like a Restored Relic or a Thunder Cage or even the Frost Watcher, because the Frost Watcher is great for Hailey. I just don't have mine built like at all, as you can see here, and I don't even have it unique ability forward, so I don't use it. I just use the Malevolent. Speaking of my Malevolent, this is my cause and my adjustment. These aren't the greatest adjustment and the greatest cause of all time, however they are very, very good and they're very solid. For the actual build of my Malevolent, this is it. For everything that is chill and snowflake, you can just replace those with whatever element you are using at the time. So if you're trying to build, let's say, a poison one, then you can swap it all over to toxin. It's entirely up to you. However, these ones right here are all not like essential, but they are needed to really build the gun, and everything else is just elemental. Next, we have our bossing weapon. Now, you actually have a nice bit of choice here. You have 3 weapons you can choose between, being the ATAMS, the Piercing Light, and the Afterglow Sword. Now, this one does also come down to personal preference and how efficient you want to be with your murdering. So, I will do a bit of a showcase between these 2 weapons later on, but I personally use ATAMS. I just have Piercing Light equipped for the showcase. Moving on, we come over here to our reactor, where I'm using a Chill Singular with skill crit hit damage and skill effect range. Now, you can probably replace range with something else. I just use this one because my skill effect range is the same one that I use on my Viesta. This is more of a multi-character reactor than anything. Next is your external components. For my components, I just run a full set of Slayer. Now, you can run kind of what you want, slash what you prefer. I prefer using Slayer, because it's good for everything all around. So it's a very, very, very solid build here of components, mainly for the skill cost and the skill power. And the extra rounds don't hurt at all. Next, we move on to our arcade tuning. This part is kind of important. Now, I have built up here into Frostbite vulnerability. You can also use Chill Cohesion and it will work very efficiently. The only reason I don't is because I use this build for everything, and sometimes that means single target damage, what I can guarantee Frostbite on, whereas I can't guarantee the 3 stacks of Chill Cohesion. So it's ultimately up to you. The things that are, like, in my opinion, some of the most important ones, and that's if you want to get 100% crit rate on your skills, is to pick up these 3 skill critical hit rate enhancements. Everything else is can go kind of wherever. I am going to eventually build it into skill power and cooldown. I'm not high enough level right now in my arcade factor, so I can't. However, that is where I am going to be bringing all my points. But yeah, you just want to max out your skill critical hit rate. So to quickly showcase how this build works, essentially you proc your 3, and with each stack, as I already said, this critical hit rate will go up and up and up. Same for your firearm critical hit rate, as you can see down here. Now, on certain guns like the Malevolent, this doesn't really matter. On something like the ATAMs, it's very nice, and something like the Piercing Light is very nice. Now, the reason why we want to max this out is for when we're using cryogenic cluster shot. As you can see, all these enemies, we hit these guys, we fire even one bullet, say goodbye to your frames. If we fire multiple shots, say goodbye to your audio and your frames. It does a lot of damage, and it does it very quickly. As you can see there, 87 million in total, and my max DPS with one shot was 23 million. My average being 7 million. That's a lot of damage, as Moxie would say. Very, very, very solid build. Very, 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 very solid overall going with our mobbing. That's essentially what you do, is you activate your one and you just unload your Malevolent or your Sword Relic or whatever into a group of enemies. Now, I would showcase like the Thunder Cage, but that requires killing, and all of these guys are immortal right now, so there's basically going to be none of that. Now, for mobbing on Hailey, this is where things get a little bit different. Not mobbing, bossing on Hailey. This is where the difference between ATAMs and Piercing Light really, really shows. This is also, again, a personal preference thing depending on what you want to do. If you want to use your big-ass railgun, say your second, and you want to use your big-ass sniper, say your 4, then I recommend using Piercing Light, because the damage numbers, when we wait for this, are actually, I believe, slightly better with Piercing Light than they are on ATAMs. So if we were to proc this right here and go into our mode here, 12 million, 33 million, 44 million, 58 million, 73 million. Obviously, I had the extra shot because this thing has extra ammo. But 73 million right there using that. And again, that was like some of those shots were in 25 meters, some of them were outside of 25 meters. So if we respawn them, using ATAMs, we get 20, 26, 37, 51. So yeah, the Piercing Light is just straight up better for using your 3 and even your like 2, I believe. Oh, not 8 times. Piercing Light is better. I don't know what I said. I believe that's the same damage on literally both of the snipers there with your 2. This is all my cryogenic cluster shot. It's actually better on my 8 times. I wasn't expecting that. But this is with cryogenic cluster shot, and the main reason I mentioned about it being with cryogenic cluster shot is without cryogenic cluster shot, it literally entirely changes how these guns function. So if we come over here and we take off cryogenic cluster, now we can apply 9 stacks. Why is that important? Well, I'll show you. Let's respawn this guy real quick. So as we come over here and respawn this guy, he'll be closer. With cryogenic, without cryogenic cluster shot rather, you can hit the same target 9 times. So what does that mean? If we are in this, we wait for our 3, there we go, and then we proc this, all 9 bullets are going to go into him, and now we do more damage. It's a simple concept. Now we're at 112 million with the Piercing Light. Again, this is really dependent on if you're trying to do more damage with mobbing or more bossing damage. Either way is entirely viable. So if we now come back over here, and we're going to do that again with our ATAMs, our ATAMs I believe is going to do less damage. However, I'll show you why I prefer using the ATAMs in just a moment. So we again proc our 1, go into our 4, 16, 47, 81, 114. Actually, our ATAMs did 1 million more. That's actually kind of shocking. I wasn't expecting that. Anyway, so essentially you can use either or, as you can see there. Both Piercing Light and ATAMs work very, very well. Now, the main reason I prefer Piercing Light is for the actual single shot damage without using your 2 or your 4. So with Piercing Light here, we're going to do 3 shots to keep it fair. I'm going to completely get rid of that damage. 8 million, 11 million, 25 million in total there with 3 bullets as from the Piercing Light. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, that's pretty goddamn solid. How could ATAMs be possibly better than that? Well, let's reset this guy once more, and I'll show you how ATAMs could possibly be better. Again, we're proccing this. I have just reset the damage just to prove it. It's all at 0. And now, 47 million. I'm not even be able to get 3 shots off in the same thing, but 100 million, and even with my next shot not having the buff, that's 118 million. So if you want to use your 2 and your 4, then I do recommend pulling out the piercing light. However, if you don't care to use that and instead you just want as much flat damage as you possibly can get, then ATAMs. So if you're looking for flat damage as much as you can get within a single shot, then it's ATAMs without Cooled Kuiper or Cryogenic Crosser, rather. If you're looking for as much damage as you can get with being mobbing focused, then I would go with Piercing Light. Again, they're about the same anyway, like it doesn't really crazily change anything. And obviously right here, as you can say, my critical hit damage is a 97% times as well, so it's really pretty. As you can see that, I mean 4.5 times is crazy, and a 100% hit, like crit hit guaranteed. Like even if I was just like do that like a pot shot, it's still crazy high. I'll do it once more. I'll proc this so it's like, and then I'll disable that. Like even letting it charge, I'm doing 5 million. Letting it charge brings that 5 million up to, again, just reset, 45 million. So it's definitely worth letting it charge. I'll also quickly throw up my builds here for both the guns. My ATAMs is less built. So starting with my Piercing Light, the only thing that I would add here on my Piercing Light is right here where it says Rutile, I would put an Elemental. So if you're trying to run Chill, or you're trying to run, if you're trying to run Chill, or Toxic, or Electricity, or Fire, this is where that would go. And my ATAMs is really not built. Just to really put into perspective of how strong the ATAMs really is. I mean, if you didn't know this gun was really strong, then this kind of just, like, it really proves it. But yeah, ATAMs it hits like a fucking truck. It like doesn't matter who the enemy is, it's going to fucking hurt. Like, this gun is crazy. I'll even put like a Colossi over here. Let's put on the Tormentor. Again, this isn't even built for electric damage, so I have no idea how much this is gonna do. But if we do one of those and they just shoot off one of the shoulders, actually only did 5 million, but then it didn't crit for some reason, so that's weird. There we go, 20 million. Like, hey man, it does pretty damage. It does pretty damage. Again, we'll go kaboosh. What's it now at? 37 million to 55 million total damage, and then we'll do one more. Kaboosh. Like, it does pretty damage. Obviously Tormentor isn't, like, you can't fight him at the minute. I actually think in this situation here where you're fighting a Colossi, I actually think this is where, in my experience I've had at least, using your like 4 and your 2 is actually the way to go, because you're getting about the same damage without having to worry about the charge up, and you're doing a lot. As you can see there, my total is 123. That is also including my thingy damage. But you can pretty much use like whatever desirable sniper rifle you want to when fighting most bosses and most enemies in this game. It's entirely up to you. Again, I just prefer ATAMs, but even Afterglow Sword, as I've already said, is very viable. I mean, shit, you don't even have to run like any of the snipers if you wanted to. You could literally just run your Malevolent, and it still does, as you can see. I'll reset the damage real quick. A good chunk of damage. Obviously, this is against a Colossi, so it's not going to be like 100% accurate, but like 19 million, that's enough to kill like the Immortality Oblivion, enough to kill most of the hard mode Abyss bosses. As you can see down here, if we come over here, let's say you want to do Pyro, it's nearly enough. When you do Devourer, it's more than enough. Dead Bride, nearly enough. Nearly enough. Enough. Nearly enough. Like, you don't even have to run a sniper. It's just running the snipers do definitely help with a lot of the bosses in this game. And a lot of the enemies in this game. As I already said, like, when you're running against, like, through Sigmas and stuff, why shouldn't you run it? And I mean, Malevolent is good enough that even if you don't want to run Cryogenic Cluster Shot, you don't have to run Cryogenic Cluster Shot. You can literally just run normal and just use the Malevolent. I mean, this is without even having my 3 procs. Malevolent's nuts. It's just in a league of its own. But obviously you can run it if you want. You can run what you desire. That's why I love playing Hailey. Is a lot of her... She has a lot of like diversity with a lot of her weapons. I mean, goodbye my frames again. But yeah, she can bring pretty much any weapon. Like, even if I don't want to use the Malevolent and I want to use my Thunder Cage, for example, I'll like literally let my combat run out here. This isn't even be able to like proc any of the explosions or anything, because I'm not going to be able to kill any of these enemies. But even if you just wanted to run like a Thunder Cage, just for the record real quick, this is what mine is at. It's not the greatest Thunder Cage of all time. It's a very mediocre one. You can still do pretty good damage against a single target, like 9 million. And if these guys were killable, like I will turn them killable now, you can do a pretty number, like, because of the explosions. Now they're all dead because of one explosion. Like, it's Hailey's solid. She's a very, very, very solid character. And you can run pretty much what you want on her. Same with like other gun descendants, like Glay specifically, you can run what you want. However, Hailey, I find, she's a bit of an underdog, and I think she's probably going to encounter more buffs in her future. So I want to get like a decent build now, so I can bring her into more stuff later down the line. But yeah, that covers everything with my Hailey. So I'm going to thank you for watching, and if you run this build, or if you run another build, or if you tweak some of this stuff and there's better numbers and better this, that and the other, let me know, and leave it down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you potentially in the next one.